Xfinity voice remote. One more way Comcast is working to fit into your life, not the other way around.
Well, the Wizards came up short tonight at home against the Hawks, and Prince to Deadman right here on the final play of the game to seal the deal as the Hawks leave DC with a 103-97 victory over the Wizards. 4 losses in a row now for the hometown team, and that's the most all season long for the Wizards. This is Wizards Overtime. I'm Christy Winter-Scott, JP Flame, and Scott Jackson are joining me to dissect the issues that the Wizards are facing right now with only 2 regular season games remaining, guys. Is it time to sound the alarm, or are we still status quo, or how are we feeling right now?
I'm not sounding the alarm. Look, it's not pretty. They've lost 8 out of 10 if you want to extend it out, 12 of the last 18, but for whatever reason, and I will admit, I may be delusional, if John Wall is back and he's healthy and you're in the playoffs where you're going to play with intensity, they didn't have energy today. They played with no intensity today. I think you're going to be fine, and if you get the right matchup. And they could end up facing the Celtics or the Raptors, and I think they match up well with them if they're playing with intensity. Today they didn't play that way, and Scott Brooks said they played selfishly. They need to play the way they've played when they have beaten some of the better teams in the league.
Yeah, I just wonder if, even with a healthy John Wall, if this is going to solve all the problems. And I don't think it does. I mean, we've seen they've had issues closing all year when John was healthy, even when he's back. That's been a problem. It seems like starting games with the intensity lately has been a problem. Maybe the playoffs solves that
like
for them.
The middle. That's what you're saying.
The middle's been pretty good, pretty much, right? It's been like the second and third quarters have been okay, and up to the 5-minute mark of the fourth quarter. I mean, tonight a G League Hawks team essentially ran them off the floor with a 16-4 run to finish the game. Obviously had nothing to play for. Wizards are still playing the seeding game. I don't know. I mean, I'd like to think the playoff switch is going to flip like we've seen in years past, but it just doesn't feel right, and they don't have a lot of time here to get this straight. And what's the playoff stress going to do to John Wall, who's coming off all this time off, too?
Right, but you look at the numbers from John Wall. Last night in Cleveland, John Wall, 28 points, 14 assists, but he also had those 6 turnovers. Tonight, you saw Washington turn the ball over 12 times, and Atlanta was able to score 18 points off of those. Now, is it the miscues and the chemistry issues with John being in and then John being out that's causing the lack of rhythm offensively for the Wizards?
I don't know if it's that. Look, they didn't have Keith today. Keith played what, 4 minutes?
He played 4 minutes, 11 seconds.
5 minutes? Keith has been solid for this team.
7 minutes and 49 seconds.
I took a look at some of his splits before we did the show today, and each month, Markieff Morris has been playing better. So the last month has been his best basketball. He's a vet. I think you know what you're going to get from him come playoff time. They missed him tonight. They didn't have John Wall and have Keith. Essentially didn't have 2 starters today.
Yeah, and Mahimi, was out of the concussion protocol thing. I mean, they had a lot of weird things going on, but the thing that concerns me, and you saw it last night in Cleveland in stretches and then late after they kind of settled it for a while, is defensively, nobody seems to know where they're supposed to go when there's a double team or there's a switch. And it's like there's mass confusion. It's almost like they just met each other. They're just playing for the first time. I mean, they do practice. Well, they're supposed to practice on some of the off days. It just seemed like they get a lot of time off with this newfangled NBA that stretches the year out, and everybody's supposed to be well rested and everything. But I don't know. It's not working for this group. And again, they look lost out there defensively.
Well, I'm all for resting physically, but you can't rest mentally. You can always watch film. You can always see the breakdowns defensively. And when the communication is happening after the fact, which it felt like that's what was the issue tonight, that's going to be a problem. And that just can't be. At this point of the season, JP, you're headed into the playoffs in a few days now. Is that a concern for you that the defense, with or without Markieff and John Wall, right? We're just talking about just overall collective team skilled defense is lacking on the communication side?
Well, we know this is a flawed team. Look, they're not one of the top 3 or 4 teams in the league. they're the rest of the league.
But is it because
They're
of the
a flawed
defense?
team. They're not a great defensive team. They have a lot of flaws. I mean, we could go through a list of flaws. Look, they don't get consistent play down low, from Marcin Gortat and Mahimi. Every 4 or 5 games, one of those guys will flash. So they don't get much down low. They're not a great defensive team. They're an inconsistent shooting team from the outside in an era where, the best teams in the league knock down threes consistently. This team doesn't do it to that level. So they're a flawed team. But, again, I may be delusional. I think it depends on the matchup. Had they won today with Miami losing, they might have been moved up to the 6th seed potentially, which is not favorable because you face the Sixers or potentially Cleveland in the first round.
Well, the Sixers
so
beat
I don't
Cleveland
mind
tonight.
them losing.
Right. But then you have a player, Scott, in Otto Porter, who only attempted 3 threes today.
And 9 shots.
Which is 9 shots, but he's top 5 in the league in his 3-point field goal percentage. What does Washington need to do to get Otto more involved offensively?
Well, apparently, according to Scott Brooks, I don't think they need to share the ball, and he didn't feel like they did that tonight. But you're right. I mean, listen, we already said John Wall's out tonight going into the game. You lose Markieff, who's been important for your offense lately, early in this basketball game. And how does Otto Porter only get 9 shots up?
Right.
I mean, it doesn't make any sense because who else is out there to score? Beal, Mike Scott did a good job with the bench. Oubre had a stretch tonight where he was feeling it. Then he kind of fell back down to where he'd been lately. So you needed more from Otto Porter offensively. And, I always leave these games, I wonder, is it Otto's fault? Does he just blend in? Is it his teammates' fault for not, identifying that, hey, this is a guy who can shoot, let's get him the ball. But I think there's one sequence tonight where he passed up a good shot to give it to another shooter, and you were screaming, you're the better shooter, take the shot.
Exactly.
But he's not a high-volume guy. If you look at the top 5,
right. He needs to be, though.
The top 5 guys in 3-point percentage, you're not going to find Steph Curry or James Harden. You're actually going to find guys that shoot far less threes.
But he's
efficient.
But he's efficient.
But
But he's got to take more than 3 shots.
He should take more shots.
You got to take more
but
than
he's
3.
never going to be a high-volume guy. I think he is a guy who generally blends in, and he's a guy who really takes advantage of having a guy like John Wall who penetrates and kicks out to the 3-point.
But even when John
but he
was
can't
out,
make the extra pass.
But when John was out, he had some really good offensive games, and he did get more shots up.
Right.
And John's not here tonight, so this is back to what that was, and he didn't. And, he can't afford to blend in. Again, when you were down the people you're down, who else is going to score on the floor? And he's got to step up. And I don't know what it was, but, again, was it just teammates not identifying him not, demanding the ball, him not just being a little bit more aggressive? All those things come into play.
But going back to your opening question, do you sound the alarm? Because I'm not sounding the alarm.
I sound the alarm because, because defense is what's going to carry you through the postseason. I don't care if your shots are falling, if Otto takes 3 threes. He should be taking at least 9 threes, not 9 field goals. He needs to take at least 9 threes a game, okay, with his percentage and his efficiency from there. I'm not saying take 20 threes and just start jacking shots, right, just out of rhythm of the offense. Otto, just pull it. That's not what I'm saying. But he needs to be in a better flow. He needs more touches on the offensive end, but I'm sounding the alarm on the defensive end because there I'm raising my eyebrow like, wait a minute, that can't happen. The miscues on that side of the ball to me were the most concerning.
So if they match up against the Celtics, let's say, in the first round of the playoffs, the Celtics don't have Kyrie Irving.
Right.
They have a solid point guard in Terry Rozier who comes off the bench and plays well. Do you favor the Wizards or do you favor the Celtics?
No, I favor the Wizards if they can buckle down and communicate ahead of time on the defensive end and not discuss what went wrong after the fact, because that's not going to get it done, and they're not going to advance in the playoffs if that's the issue. I think the defensive concern for me is much higher than the offensive concern. They only had 18 assists tonight, but we understand John Wall's not out there. Markieff's not out there. We get that, okay? But they had 34 assists yesterday on 46 made shots. So this is a team who does move the ball. So for Scott Brooks to say, hey, we were selfish tonight. We weren't moving the basketball, 18 assists. Porter's not getting his shots, and
it also might be
Beal
a function of the opponent. You talked about this as watching the game. Cleveland doesn't play defense.
No,
Take
Cleveland
a look at the points that 76ers put up tonight.
So Atlanta plays defense?
Well, better than Cleveland.
But they're really?
Maybe the Wizards felt like, hey, we did this to Cleveland last night. We'll just roll it out there.
They're the third worst team in the league because they don't have talent.
Yeah.
But they don't have talent offensively or defensively. Because if you're saying that Cleveland is a poor defensive team, right? But then Atlanta is, they beat Washington tonight. So what gave them the edge? What gave them the edge then?
Atlanta,
what gave them the edge?
Well, John Wall didn't play.
Well, no, I'm talking about what gave Atlanta. No, if Atlanta is the third worst team record-wise,
right,
then what was the advantage? So you're saying Cleveland was a poor defensive team.
What I'd say is Atlanta
so
actually
Atlanta's
plays,
a better defensive team than Cleveland. That's my question.
Yeah, I think they are slightly better. You can take a look at the numbers. Cleveland's an awful defensive team.
Yeah, I mean,
but they're not worse
defense,
than Atlanta.
Well, listen, obviously the Wizards didn't take this game the way they should have. I mean, we've seen this over and over again. They up for the primetime game last night, gave it a good go and then lose it in the end. And then tonight, it's Atlanta. John's going to sit out. Don't have Mahimi. That's okay. It's Atlanta.
No urgency.
No urgency. And as you saw that from the beginning, we were like, wow, this is a really slow tempo. What's going on here?
Really tough.
And then there's guys just driving the lane. I think Atlanta had like 48 to 32 in points in the paint. And a lot of those are really easy layups, dunks.
To the rim.
I mean, nobody's in the picture sometimes.
Yep.
So there's definitely an urgency issue. But, yeah, I mean, going back to the thing about Boston, you'd feel better because they're not as talented. But I'll tell you this, Boston's going to play great defense. They're going to make you earn everything. They're going to play hard. Yeah. And you know what? Their coach is going to have a wrinkle or two matchup-wise. It's going to make the Wizards have to change what they're doing.
Well, trust and believe that Brad Stevens has a playbook ready.
Yeah,
okay,
no doubt.
We've seen that, and we've seen the adjustments in game
Exactly.
made by Brad Stevens as well on both sides of the ball. So for me, still, I'm sitting on that with the defense being the main issue right now for Washington. I think they can score, they can be more aggressive and get to the basket a little bit more. They got to the free throw line better today with 23 attempts rather than the 14 yesterday in Cleveland. So they did attack a little bit more, but still, I still think they could be more aggressive on the defensive end, and that could turn into easier offense on runouts.
It's not a great look to lose to the Hawks at home with just a couple games left, but without John Wall, I don't sound the alarm. Again, I might be dead wrong. They might be swept out of the playoffs, and we're done talking about the Wizards in 2 weeks.
No, don't say that. Don't
but
put that
I
in the
actually
atmosphere.
think
We already had Travis. Hey, Travis.
They can
Travis
make a run.
Here. I'm just here for today. But anyway, I mean, you can't put that in the atmosphere, though.
You certainly can put it in the atmosphere. Look, they're going to be the underdog. They're going to go on the road for the first 2 games of the playoffs, regardless of who they play. Whether it's the Sixers, whether it's Cleveland, whether it's Boston.
The East is not really a great East.
I need a 20-second timeout. We're going to take a quick break. On the other side, we're going to check in with our socially aware Keely Diven, and she's going to feel the pulse of you, the fans. So stay right there.
The anger.
Glass is still half full, fellas.
Wizards Overtime, presented by Geico.
Psst. What?
I switched to Geico and got more.
More savings on car insurance?
Uh-huh. And an award-winning mobile app.
Well, it is more.
Oh, there's more. Mobile ID cards, emergency roadside service.
More technology.
I can even add a new driver.
Right from her phone!
Geico. Expect great savings and a whole lot more.
If you would have told me 3 years ago
that we'd be downloading in seconds what used to take
minutes.
The guests would compliment our Wi-Fi.
That we could video conference.
And do it like that.
If you'd have told me that I could afford
a gig speed.
A gig speed network.
It's like 20 times faster than what most people have.
I'd have said
you're dreaming.
Dreaming. Definitely dreaming.
Then again, dreaming is how I got this far.
Now more businesses in more places can afford to dream gig. Comcast, building America's largest gig speed network.
When you have amazing internet, you can stream amazing shows. And Fios gives you the fastest internet available for just $79.99 a month with a 2-year agreement. Plus, you get 1 year of Netflix on us. So don't wait to get Fios gigabit connection on the 100% fiber optic network so you can stream on up to 100 devices at once. Hurry, offer ends soon. So get the fastest internet available, plus Netflix, plus up to 200 TV channels, plus phone, plus a 2-year price guarantee. All for just $79.99 per month. Hurry, this offer ends April 18th. Go to getfios.com to switch today.
When we founded Window Nation, we made it our mission to train a team of expert advisors dedicated to helping homeowners.
So we did, revolutionizing the industry with our mandatory 100 hours of training before they even step foot in your home. Plus, factory and on-site install training ensures we provide the proper guidance to make an educated decision when the time is right.
So give us a call today and see for yourself.
Get 2 free windows for every 2 you buy, plus 0% financing for 18 months. Call today or visit windownation.com.
After the final buzzer, watch Wizards Extra for instant game reaction and analysis. Get insider access, exclusive interviews, and more. Wizards Extra after every game on NBC Sports Washington.